Hello, everyone. Today we're talking about air travel, something many of us used to do all the time. But a major downturn in air passenger traffic was one of the first changes to our region's economy when COVID-19 arrived in the spring. Slowly, flights are being restored and passenger numbers are now on the rise. So to talk with us about how MSP is going to return to flight, we're joined by Jeff Davidman, Vice President of State and Local Government Affairs at Delta Airlines. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
Great. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me today.
Been a while. Let's start with health and safety, which is obviously the most important thing for Delta right now. What are some of the specific steps Delta has taken to reduce transmission of COVID-19, and how do we know those steps are going to work?
Yeah, well, again, thanks for having me today. It's a great question, and really, since everyone's world changed 6 months ago, that's been the questions we've been asking ourselves at Delta, and we've been working on every day. The first 6 weeks of the COVID pandemic, I would say we kind of put the airline to sleep for all intents and purposes. But as soon as we did that, we turned our attention to the fact that air travel is going to come back, and when it does, what does it need to look like, and what do our customers need to see, and what do we need to do for our employees and our customers to ensure their safety when they're flying. And so we've rolled out what we call the Delta Care Standard. And we did that in conjunction with a number of partners. Perhaps most important is a Minnesota-based partner in the Mayo Clinic, who really has become what we call our chief medical officer for Delta Airlines. And we've had a number of other partners as well, but really working on the entire process from the time you start your travel and enter the airport until you pick up your bag at baggage claim and everything in between to ensure our customers are safe and our employees are safe. And we've reached out to our customers throughout this entire experience to say, what do you need to see in order to feel safe and comfortable to come back to flying? And as I said, we've developed what we call our Delta Care Standard. It's over 100 different new processes and procedures that we have in place that a customer who hasn't flown on Delta since all this began will see when they come back to the airport. And I won't go through all 100 of them, but I do want to highlight a few of them that I think our customers see the most when they're coming through the airport. And so it starts as soon as you come into the airport. In the ticket lobby, you'll see plexiglass up at our ticket counters. You'll see our kiosks and people wiping down the kiosks after every usage. You'll see social distancing markers when you're looking to check your bags. So the lobby experience has changed. And then when you get to the gate and you start going through the boarding process, that's changed. First of all, you'll need a mask to board an aircraft. At Delta, we require it from the time you board all the way through the flight experience. We'll get to that a little bit more in a second. We're boarding in a new process now where we used to board by zones. We're now doing it by rows. We board the back of the plane to the front. And that was actually an idea that came from a flight attendant who early in COVID saw the first class passengers or the front of the plane board, and then people walked by them and they could see that nobody felt comfortable about that experience. And so we changed that boarding process of how we're doing that. Before you even board the plane, we are giving every aircraft a deep cleaning in between, not just overnight flights, but between every flight. Electrostatic spraying of every aircraft from front to back, wiping down the trays and the television screens that you see, not just once a day, but between every single aircraft and every destination we fly to. And we don't board the plane until our flight crews board, inspect it, and it meets their standards to be able to do that. We have HEPA filters on our aircraft. And so HEPA filters are the same filters that you would find at a hospital. That type of level of filtration on our aircraft. And what a lot of people don't know is we actually bring in fresh air on our aircraft every 2 to 4 minutes of a flight. We're actually pushing out old air, bringing in new air from the outside, and then sending it through the HEPA filter. So having that level of filtration on our aircraft. And then the mask requirement, which is what I referenced a little bit earlier, where Delta has a requirement we've had for a long time that you must wear a mask on our aircraft. You can certainly take it down if you're going to eat and drink. But if you don't put it back on, we'll give you a gentle reminder that you need to continue to wear your mask. But if you continue not to wear a mask and you refuse to wear a mask, you'll actually end up on a do not fly list for Delta. And we have over 250 people who have been on that list, and it's it's not just any traveler. Some of our best travelers who, if they refuse to wear a mask, we've said, then you no longer get to fly Delta, and we've put them on that no-fly list. So that's just a few of the measures we've taken. As I've said, we have over 100. I've shared with your team a video that I think they're going to post with this interviews. It's about a 5-minute video, but it's something that the customer can look at prior to flying, just so they can see firsthand all the changes that have been put in place and hopefully make them go more comfortable. And we know it's working, Peter, because we ask our customers. So prior to COVID, we would ask our customers how we were doing, and we had a net promoter score of 50 in 2019, which was an all-time high for Delta. We were pretty excited about that. Our net promoter score during COVID in August was 75. 75% of our customers said, I would recommend you to someone else. And that's an all-time high for Delta, 25 points higher than our previous all-time high in 2019. So we're listening to our customers, what they need to say. We're listening to the experts in the medical field and what is necessary. And we know it's working because those who are flying are feeling comfortable when they do so.
So it's clearly you've kind of developed this path, and you can scale these solutions as flights return and as passenger numbers increase. You face such hard decisions this spring about cutting flights, putting the airline to sleep, as you said, and reducing traffic all across the globe. Can you talk about how traffic at MSP Airport compares maybe now to other major Delta hubs across the country? And what's the process Delta's using to decide which flights to bring back and when?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I did use that terminology. We had to put the airline to sleep. And I think before we talk about where we are today, it's important to sort of touch on what April looked like at hopefully what is the bottom of this pandemic. But traffic across the country was down 95% year over year and almost week over week. I mean, it was that quick of a change in people's patterns, but certainly down 95% year over year in April across the board. And so from a Delta perspective, we grounded, if we have about 900 aircraft in our system, we quickly grounded about 600 aircraft. We shut down concourses that we were using. So in Minneapolis, we shut down the G concourse, which if you've flown before on Delta and people watching this have flown, they'll know that we put a lot of flights on G every single day. We shut it down and said we're not going to use it. We shut down both of our Sky Clubs at the beginning as well in Minneapolis. Really, we were just operating off of the F concourse and a little bit off of C, and that's all we needed in order for our flights. And then the good news is we're starting to see a comeback. It's going to be slow. We've said this is really a 2022, 2023 until we get back to pre-COVID levels. It's probably going to take a vaccine to really even start to see that. But the good news is this summer, we're starting to see an uptick. Although it is slow, it is steady, and that's good news. So in Minneapolis specific, just to give you some examples, in April, we had less than 100 daily flights a day operating out of MSP. We should normally have around 400 flights a day. Today, we have about 230 flights operating. So we're moving in the right direction. In April, we had 1,500 passengers a day on Delta Airlines, at MSP. Usually that's up closer to 20 to 25,000. The good news is today we're at about 12,000 passengers a day. So again, it's slow, but it's moving in the right direction. People are starting to come back. And we quickly, as we brought down flights, we couldn't fly to every destination we had before. We are at about 76 destinations in April. The good news is we're back up to 84 and hopefully continuing to add. So, Minneapolis is our second largest hub in the Delta system. It is a core part of our network and what we do. It's our second largest employment base as well. And so as growth comes back into Minneapolis, as growth comes back to the Delta network overall, you're seeing that growth in Minneapolis at the beginning. And really, if you look at the Delta network, we call it our inland hubs. So we've got Atlanta, Minneapolis, Detroit, Salt Lake City. Those really are the 4 hubs that we are sort of concentrating our return and growth to start. And we'll get to the coast as well. But really, those 4 hubs are what we focus on here right now. And Minneapolis is a really important part of that network, and it will continue to be.
Well, there was big news recently with the return of the Amsterdam flight, so the first international flight returning. What does that mean for Delta and for MSP Airport, and what comes next?
Yeah, so that's a really big deal to bring back Minneapolis-Amsterdam. So we just announced it a few days ago, so this interview is really timely. It will start flying October 25th, and it's going to operate 4 times a day on an A330 aircraft. It was really exciting. From the beginning of the pandemic, the federal government had put in place what they called a funneling system, so that only 15 airports in the country could accept traffic from Europe or Asia into the United States, and MSP wasn't on that. And so I believe it was September 14th when the federal government took that restriction away. And as soon as they did that, we got ready, and then we just recently announced the Minneapolis-Amsterdam return. So really big deal. The hub, the international service, transatlantic, transpacific, that's really worked well for us in Minneapolis has been when we're able to connect our hub to hub of one of our partners, and Amsterdam really is sort of at the core of that with the connectivity in Amsterdam on KLM Air France. And so we're excited to see how that does. It's got both a passenger component, also a cargo component, which has been very important through the pandemic as well. So we'll see how that does, and hopefully if that's successful and people are willing to start to fly international again, that will lead to the return of other flights that we had in our system prior to the pandemic, which includes things like London and Paris and Seoul and Mexico City. So this is a great first test for that, and we're excited to see how it does.
Yeah, we're excited about all the progress we were making through the Regional Air Services Partnership, adding these international flights. And so now we're working together to return flights as soon as demand is there. And we look forward to getting back to that expansion approach.
And let me just take a minute to talk about the Regional Air Service Partnership, because it really is a unique component in the Twin Cities. And I like to say I was kind of in the room where I think it was born and developed. I don't know, maybe we all take credit for it, but at the time, Rick King, who's now the chair of the MAC and obviously the chair of the RASP and very involved in Greater MSP, and he came down to Minneapolis or to Atlanta to meet with our head of our network team. And he said, so what can the community, what does Minneapolis-Saint Paul, what does the region, the Twin Cities region need to do to show Delta what routes are needed? And I remember our network team said it, and I'm sure they put it more eloquently, but this is how I remember it. They basically said, we need to know what we don't know, in that there's a lot of public data out there that tells us where people are going. So we know that. What we need to know is what we don't know, which is, what's the future look like for these great Twin Cities, Minnesota, MSP region companies? Where do they want to be? Where do they want to go? And, I just thought it was another meeting, but amazing when Rick got back to the Twin Cities and he met with his counterparts and he brought in Greater MSP, it was just amazing what got launched off the ground. And so we meet with the RASP on a regular basis, as you know, Peter, and you've been in those meetings. And it's really helped our network team learn about what the needs are and what routes are needed in the Twin Cities. And as you said, that's always been important. It's probably even more important as we start growing and coming out of the pandemic over the next couple of years, and we start prioritizing what routes we need to see for the business community and for the region.
Well, it's a great creative solution, and it's a good example of something that doesn't cost a lot of money, but it just takes some leadership and shared commitment, and it's creating a lot of value for a lot of people. Yeah. I mean, maybe in that vein, that's a good example of how Delta Airlines, the airport, the business community, and the broader community, which have all benefited from these additional flights, they're connected. This is an important partnership. And this is such a difficult time for all the airlines, including Delta. I'll ask the question again, what more could this community do to help Delta and the airport emerge strong and maybe even stronger than before?
Yeah, I think that the key will be when people are ready to fly. And listen, I understand, corporations are going to look at this slowly and conservatively, as are, individual travelers. When people are ready to fly, I will tell you that Delta and the MAC and MSP are ready to welcome them back with open arms, with all the safety precautions that I laid out. And I know the MAC has done a number as well, as great partners for us as we try and work. We always view our customers are the same. So a MAC customer is a Delta customer. A Delta customer is a MAC customer. We know that. We work really closely together, including with other partners at the airport like the TSA and the CBP. We're all working together to ensure that the necessary safety measures and protocol have taken place, have been implemented, will continue to take place and be implemented as we learn more, and there's more products that come out in the marketplace, and that we're ready to welcome the traveler back when they're ready to come. And it's going to be different for everybody, and we know that, and that's why we know it's going to be a slow recovery, but we're ready. And so whatever we can do, and that's why these type of opportunities are great, to spread the word about what not only Delta's done, but what MSP Airport's done to be ready for the traveler when the traveler's ready to come back.
Well, that's great. Well, we're working together now. We're going to keep working together. A lot of communication, a lot of trust. Thanks for taking time to have this conversation today. And thanks for all you and your team are doing. We know this is Delta's having an unusual 2020, as are many of us. So
that's right. I appreciate the opportunity and the partnership, and look forward to seeing everybody on a flight real soon.